Great. Okay. I have the lady in the green back there who has been waving for half an hour now.
Thank you very much.
Hold on, here I go.
Microphone. Very important that every word. I'm here to talk about the relocation of the sewage plant, and this is Save Honey Hill versus Anglian Water round 3, because I have attended 3 hustings, and at all of them the answer to why Cambridge's sewage plant needs to be relocated is housing. So before that answer comes, I'm just going to make sure everybody fully understands all the facts, because I think that's quite important. This is Anglian Water. They are, surprise, surprise, putting profit before people, and they are going to be receiving, supported by our local councils, it's going to cost £400 million to relocate the sewage plant, but it's going to cost £277 million from money for housing to move the sewage plant, which is fully functioning and future-proofed, to Honey Hill, and it's going to be built on a principal chalk aquifer. It's going to be the size of Wembley. It's going to be a tunnel going under the River Cam to pump the sewage uphill, etc., etc. Masses and masses of crazy amounts of carbon in the name of housing. So when we put this point, the response has been, it's for housing for our young people. Well, I'm afraid to say that is absolutely not true. This development, which will take place on the land that will be freed up by this appallingly relocation, money going to Anglian Water. Oh, should we be paying them twice? We're already paying them. Why are we paying them again for another sewage plant? This land is going to be used for a commercially led development. There will only be, by 2041, 3,250 houses built. But first of all, before that, the commercial and the R&D area...
time for people to respond.
Okay, so I just want to say the commercial area is the priority, and it's going to lead up to a maximum of nearly, potentially 60,000 jobs. And so there'll be a massive housing shortage. So my question is, please, is it right that we should be paying Anglian Water to our candidates again to be building another sewage plant when we're already paying them through our water bills?
Thank you.
Here we go.
I want to know how you're going to make the water companies
and can you hold the
how are you going to make the water companies accountable for the lack of investment in infrastructure, which leads to huge amounts of water being wasted through leaky pipes and the constant discharging of shit into our rivers and the sea everywhere?
You're speaking French.
Hi, my name is Rahman. I'm from Cambridge City Food Bank. Some of your parties have pledged to build more social housing. At the food bank, we are seeing a growing number of social housing tenants come to us having faced the extremely adverse effects of mismanagement and disrepair in social housing. Mould, leaks, poor insulation, poor treatment from social landlords. This disrepair and poor treatment can exacerbate or cause illness, increase financial hardship, weaken our communities, and in the worst cases, force tenants into homelessness. What will you do to ensure that everyone can have a home that is safe and habitable, especially those on the lowest incomes who are living in subpar social housing right now?
Just a very quick point. 9 years ago, I sat through another hustings about housing, and there was lots of talk on how people would solve the housing issues. I've just observed that in 9 years, growth has not solved any housing problems.
Yes.
We have the issue about Honey Hill. Did you have something that is...
I have something completely different.
No.
It's about, but I feel like it's, it's all very much...
Well, throw it out and let's see if we can't squeeze it in.
No, thank you. Basically, a quote from Bertolt Brecht, this is actually put into much simpler. A quote from Bertolt Brecht. The government is disappointed in the people. Maybe they should elect a new people. Because the government and people that are going to go into government are not listening to the people. And one of the things that concerns me is one issue, the elephant in the room as far as I'm concerned, is what's going on in Gaza, and the fact that Cambridge is complicit in terms of the university's funding research, in terms of firms that are funding the war in Gaza, but also because Cambridge has a history of being a city of sanctuary. You know, from the time of the Spanish Civil War, when Cambridge took in young children, to the Vietnamese War, and we took in boat people, and then Ukrainians, which we opened the doors to and provided access to, and basically, but we don't have the same attitude towards Palestinians. So I would like to ask if all of the people on the platform believe that it is now essential to call for an immediate ceasefire.
And I know some people have to leave very soon. So, Daniel, I know you have to leave at 8:30. Would you like to start us off, though, if you do have to leave? Then
Yeah, very, very quickly. The Honey Hill question I answered last week, and I stand by my answer last week. I think it's important that the development goes ahead, and I see that. On the River Cam, absolutely. Labour's proposals are very strong. We'll be fining those bosses. There'll be automatic fines for when they do the spills. This is a consequence, I'm afraid, of years of mismanagement and underinvestment. And I really genuinely think we can crack it with the water company. So keep up the pressure, keep up the pressure.
Daniel, you voted against that.
You voted
actually voted against
No,
water companies Ofwat being able to fine water companies.
Well, look, there was some arguments over parliamentary procedure, and Antony and I perhaps can pursue that later with you. But on the food bank and the social housing question, you're absolutely right. I mean, as an MP, I get lots of people coming to me, and there's real variation in terms of the quality of the social housing providers. I'm deeply disappointed at the way in which local housing associations, they've lost, in a lot of cases, their local links and been taken over by much bigger organisations who are much harder to hold to account.
Yeah.
That's a complicated set of issues, but you're absolutely right to identify them, and we'll be working really hard to make sure that those really awful conditions that some people are suffering are not allowed to continue. On the housing issue, John, you say nothing's improved. Look, some people are living in houses in Cambridge which have been built in the last decade, and you know that, regardless of whatever we feel, that is a fact. But we need to do much better, and quite clearly the housing issues are one of the biggest things that we face. And on Gaza, look, absolutely. I would say that as a city of sanctuary, I can guarantee you that the Labour government will take a different attitude to refugees, will scrap the stupid Rwanda scheme, which absolutely should be scrapped. And absolutely an immediate ceasefire, absolutely the hostages should be released, absolutely needs to be reconstruction in Gaza. But most of all, there needs to be a proper settlement which recognises a two-state solution. That's going to be the only long-term solution to this tragedy. And finally, because I'm going to have to go in a minute, I think the point about how we have failed to explain to people, the point Antony made, about how our system works effectively. It's really important that people understand. And my offer to you is, should I be fortunate enough to be re-elected, that I've had people come to visit Parliament before, and they've often gone away and said, I had no idea it worked like that. And my offer to the various organisations here is, if you want to bring groups to Parliament, I'll always be pleased to see you. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have 2 minutes and a lot of big issues. I also answered the question on Hartree last week, and my answer hasn't changed over the course of the week. I'd also rather that we spent time to talk about issues facing Cambridge. And I think the question around Honey Hill, that's not in Cambridge. There might be a question for your own MP candidates going forwards.
But it affects the sewage.
But it's the question about the housing was also what I answered last week. In terms of water and the River Cam and the sewage, the Liberal Democrats were actually the first to make sewage a national issue. We were the first to say that we should scrap Ofwats, we should put strong fines on water companies for dumping their sewage, and we should completely revamp Ofwat to make it be a public benefit corporation. It was our amendment that unfortunately Labour voted against, which I'm absolutely flabbergasted by. On the social housing, this is a key issue in Cambridge, and within our council housing, I do agree with Emma actually that the amount of council house building that's happening by the Labour Council is impressive, but what I think they've been very poor at is maintaining the housing stock that they currently have, a lot of which is very old. It's also absolutely ridden with mould, and I see across my ward where we don't have huge amounts of council housing, but the small amount that we do is in incredibly poor condition. We've really challenged the Labour Council, I'm speaking more as a councillor here, I suppose an MP candidate, to have proper inspections of damp and mould, and also to make sure they're out of hours, because currently the council will only go to inspect between 9 and 5, which if you're at work, obviously isn't particularly convenient. So there's a lot I think we can do there to make that process much, much better. In terms of the situation in Gaza, I'm sorry we're sort of rushing through what is such a serious issue. The devastation that we've seen unfold is horrific, and you're quite right that Cambridge and the UK is culpable in many ways, and we can't sit here and wash our hands and say what's all happening over there. Our party also supports calls for a ceasefire. I think we're also the first party to demand stopping the sending. We're not, apologies, but we also support calls for a ceasefire and to stop selling offensive arms to Israel and to oppose sanctions on the far-right Israeli ministers. And I think we've been crystal clear on that, and I hope we'll be clear on that from the start. In terms of refugees, for me, the moment that the government opens up a resettlement scheme, then that should be made available here at Cambridge. We have a strong tradition as a city of sanctuary, and that should be made available going forwards. Thank you.
Hi. Okay, so thank you, Liz. I have to commend you on your excellent campaigning skills. It's brilliant, and the Greens have really enjoyed singing with your campaign last year. Is this on? I'm not very good at this. Okay, thank you.
Okay. The relocation of the sewage plant onto a green belt in 2024 amongst a climate crisis, what's going on, and all in the age of housing and growth. I mean, there's a theme here. I'm sure everybody must go away tonight just thinking about that if you haven't. I'm sure some of us already have given deep thought to this, but really everyone in this room, you need to sort of look at your ideas about growth, particularly these people around the table. 2021, from 2011 to 2021, there were 30,000 houses built in Cambridgeshire. 30,000 is one of the fastest growing regions in the UK. And we haven't seen that average house price come down. Isn't that the whole point about growth, about making things more affordable? It's just that it's getting up. More homes that people can't afford, and also more homes that are putting our water supply at risk. So, building on the green belt, this is ridiculous. Cambridge already has 53,000 houses. It's tiny and it's full to the brim. Okay, in terms of social housing. Okay, social housing. The council has not been building social housing at social rents. They've been building council houses and they've been palming them off as affordable housing. And affordable rents are 80% of market rent. Okay, that's not affordable. Okay, social rents are 40% in Cambridge City Council. So these are the sort of houses that we need to be building. Over a 10-year period, the council has built a total of 113 social rented houses. Okay, that's the truth. Okay, and that's why it's still so difficult for people on low incomes to survive in this city. The fecal matter in the river. Yeah, I won't let my son. I used to, when it was really hot. Oh, and it's hot quite a lot. Well, not this summer, but it's been very, very hot the last few summers. I have not gone to the river and refreshed myself with my son because of precisely that. I will not go anywhere near the river now. We used to go to the wash. So the Green Party would bring the water companies back into public hands, and this is where they need to be, and this is how we can. This is where they need to be, because it's absolutely ridiculous. Just finally, thank you very much for bringing up the question of Gaza. We were the first party to ask for a ceasefire, permanent and unconditional ceasefire in Gaza. We believe in the security and equality for Israelis and Palestinians, and we believe that war crimes should have been prosecuted, and we believe that South Africa's accusation about Israel of committing genocide in its killing of tens of thousands, the horror that we've witnessed with the killing of Palestinians, we believe that should be looked at as the Green Party. So thank you for bringing that up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for all those questions. That's a lot to try and answer in 2 minutes. I mean, the first 3 questions I kind of threaded together on my piece of paper here with the word disgusting, The first one about Honey Hill, I said it last week, I'll say it again, and I said it earlier actually. The Labour and Lib Dem Council don't listen to people's concerns, and you've seen that already. They're not interested in your worries and your valid concerns about this. I said it last week, I'll say it again, it's an absolute joke that they're doing that. It's disgusting, frankly, and I think it's nonsense. The second point about the other disgusting stuff from the river that you mentioned, I totally agree. It's embarrassing, it's disgusting, it should never have happened. But we have to also acknowledge, and this isn't a cop-out, this has been going on for decades. It's not a Conservative thing, it's not a Labour thing, it's been going on for far too long. But what the Conservative government have done is put more monitoring in place, impose bigger fines on executives, ban bonuses for those executives, beefed up the regulator to try and address this issue. The third issue then was about social housing. Again, disgusting the way some landlords treat their residents. I don't know if many people here have ever lived in social housing or have family live in social housing. I have, and frankly, the state of some of these places is a joke. So we need to first of all make sure there's better design standards to avoid these things happening in the first place. But when we do get rogue landlords, like we've seen in the example cited, we need to come down on them like a ton of bricks. It's absolutely unacceptable, and frankly gives a bad name to other landlords which aren't nefarious like that. The fourth one about growth, not helping anybody with housing. The second time I'm back in Daniel's lecture with this question, that I think those who bought the houses would say they probably benefited from more houses in the area. And then the fourth issue, I mean, the lady started with the sentence that the people that were elected aren't listening to you. I mentioned it before, I'll mention it again. I totally agree, they're not listening to you, they don't care, they'll do what suits them. And on the Gaza issue, I've got 4 seconds for an incredibly nuanced issue, which I will never do justice to. Any civilian life that's lost as part of any conflict is one too many. But I generally support the government's position, which is being cautious, recognising our allies, but also recognising the humanitarian effects that are going on there. And I think we need to really tread carefully when we throw out big statements on such a nuanced issue.
Thank you.
Now again, I have to stand. Thank you. Now, a few points about. Let's start with the river. The river, I agree with you completely. I'm oncologist, I'm doctor. The river have to be clean. There is no option. I can say the Labour Party failed completely over 9 years to think about doing anything. This is it. I consider it, if I'm in somewhere else, I would call it a crime against environment. Imagine Daniel is a minister, the shadow minister of environment. Please, this is really dangerous. We have to question this, and I'm going to question it if I'm your MB. Number 2, about the housing and the social housing. Exactly the same thing. The patients, more patients, they became more sick. They have lung problems, they have breathing difficulty, they have skin problems because of this poor quality social houses. I agree with you. This is the reason why we have to solve this matter urgent. As well about your area, last week we spoke and I told you 100% I'm with you. We should not ignore it. We should not dump our sewage to your area. This is not fair. I am with the green belt, I'm with the environment 100%, not just by name or title. This is our life, our planet, our country. So here we are. About John, about the housing, completely I'm with you. Nothing done, just more expensive houses, not for our citizens, not for our people. Gaza, we have 30 seconds, not 4 seconds by the Conservative or just talking. Daniel, did you write anything in your website or Twitter about Gaza, about the genocide, about the crime? I have 18 seconds. Why you voted to continue this war against my people? My dad from Gaza, this always with me. This is life, kids, they're cutting them, destroying them, ethnic cleansing. It's not fair. We have to stand for our humanity, our British values. I will not agree to continue this dirty war against poor children and families. Thank you very much.
First of all, about the sewage works being moved, it sounds ridiculous, but I don't know the facts of why they want to move it. And
Nobody seems to know the facts.
so I mean, it sounds ridiculous.
The City Council is partnering Anglian Water. The Labour-controlled City Council is a partner of Anglian Water to shift the sewage works from the north of Cambridge out to Horningsea.
Okay, but...
And you know, weird that I should have to say that from the floor, and that hasn't come out from the panel.
Yeah, sorry, but probably some of the people here haven't talked about all the details about everything. It's better that you inform us.
Of course.
You know, that's the whole point.
It's lovely to talk to you.
So, yeah, it does sound ridiculous. Yeah. But, and it also, to me, it sounds almost as if, you know, we don't want to build housing on the green belt, so let's put this on the green belt and build the housing on the grey belt.
And it's not about housing, it's a commercial.
And the commercial, etc. Yeah. So I mean, it does sound like it's a little bit of like shifting things around for political reasons. But I'm not an expert. I'll leave it to you guys to fill it.
Thank you.
The second thing, housing associations merging together and being taken over by other housing associations. I've heard this before. Yeah, and people are complaining because before it was easy to talk to your housing association, but now you can't because it's somebody in London who's taken over somebody else, who's taken over somebody else. It's a whole chain, yeah? So nobody's responsible. Effectively, business is seeping into an area which is sort of a grey area, social, should be a social area, right? So this is, what to do about this, I don't know. Maybe stronger rules against takeovers of housing associations. Housing associations tend to merge. They tend to merge on the continent, they tend to merge here. I don't think it's a very good thing for the tenants. I don't think it helps them at all. And basically, the time it takes for them to respond. Oops. And so I would like to agree with what my colleagues have said about the rest, because I'm out of time. Apologies.
Great, thank you. Right, we need to, I feel like we're just getting going, but we do need to bring the evening to a close. But I want to thank everyone who has come up here. It's a tough thing to bare yourself to the public and take on the questions, and I thank you all for doing it. And I want to also thank Wendy and Susan for organizing tonight.